The first thing Nora Felts felt was pain. Not memory, not confusion, just white, blinding pain across her entire body and the sound of a machine beeping steadily somewhere above her head. She tried to move her fingers. They obeyed slowly. She tried to open her eyes. The light came in too fast and she flinched. "She's waking up," a woman's voice urgent. "Get Dr. Osai now." Nora blinked against the brightness. The ceiling was not the cracked plaster she expected. It was smooth and white, and the room smelled like expensive flowers, not antiseptic. There were fresh lilies on the window ledge. The blanket across her chest was thick and soft. The bed underneath her was not a hospital bed, or if it was a kind of hospital she had never seen. She turned her head. A man was sitting beside her. He was leaning forward with his elbows on his knees, and when her eyes met his, something moved across his face so fast she almost missed it. Relief, raw and unguarded, the kind that breaks through a person who has been holding themselves together for too long. "Nora," he said. She stared at him. "Who are you?" The relief on his face didn't disappear, but it shifted, became something more careful. "My name is Cole," he said. "Cole Whitmore." He paused. "I'm your husband." Nora looked at her left hand. There was a diamond ring on her finger. She looked back at him. "I don't know you," she said. The doctors explained it patiently. 3 months in a coma following a car accident. Significant memory disruption in the months surrounding the crash. Trauma of that severity could cause gaps, sometimes temporary, sometimes permanent. They said it carefully, like people who had rehearsed it. The neurologist, a composed woman named Dr. Osai, told her the brain often protected itself by sealing off the most overwhelming experiences. "It doesn't mean those memories are gone," she said. "It means your mind hasn't decided they're safe to return yet." Cole stood in the doorway during the explanation. He didn't interrupt. He didn't try to fill the silence with reassurance. He just watched her with those careful eyes and let her absorb it. After the doctors left, he showed her everything. Wedding photos, a short video clip from the ceremony, her own face, laughing, holding his hand, legal documents with her signature, messages she had apparently sent from her own phone, a photo of them standing outside a building in the rain, her head on his shoulder, both of them smiling at something off camera. "I don't remember any of this," she said. "I know," he said. "That doesn't," she pressed her lips together, "that doesn't frighten you." "It terrifies me," he said simply. "But you're awake, that's enough for today." Before we go any further, if you found this story, you're in the right place. Subscribe right now and hit the bell because stories like this one come out every week, and you do not want to miss what happens next. Now stay with me, because this is where it gets complicated. The days that followed were disorienting in a way Nora had no framework for. Cole was attentive without being suffocating. He learned quickly what overwhelmed her and backed off. He never pushed her to remember, never corrected her when she asked questions she apparently should have known the answers to. But she was watching him, closely, the way she had always watched people when something felt slightly off. And something felt slightly off. His answers about how they met were always complete, too complete. He never stumbled, never laughed at an awkward memory the way people do when they're genuinely recalling something. He gave her facts, dates, locations, but never the small, stupid details that real love is made of, the argument that ended in laughter, the meal that went wrong the first time he knew. She noticed that his family hated her. His mother, Vivienne, visited once and spent 40 minutes in the room without directly addressing Nora. His uncle, a compact, watchful man named Sterling, shook her hand like he was doing something unpleasant. Only Cole's grandfather, an elderly man named Frank who was wheeled in on the 3rd day and held her hand and called her the best decision this boy ever made. Only Frank seemed genuinely glad she was alive. She noticed that certain staff lowered their voices when she walked past. She noticed that one of the nurses flinched the first time Sterling, Whitmore entered her ward. and she began to have fragments. Not memories exactly, more like sensations, a voice she couldn't place, cold rain, a phone pressed to her ear, and words that came back to her in the dark. Don't trust him. It took her 11 days to find the documents. Cole had given her access to his private study to use while she recovered. The penthouse apartment he apparently owned was large enough that she could spend whole afternoons without encountering another person. She wasn't looking for anything specific. She told herself she was just getting familiar with her own life. Then she found the folder. It was labeled with legal terminology she almost scrolled past, but one word caught her: conditional inheritance, Whitmore estate. She read it twice. Cole's grandfather, Frank, had amended his will 2 years ago. The amendment was clear. To inherit the family company and block a hostile restructuring attempt, the primary heir had to marry a person with no financial or social ties to the corporate world. The spouse had to be verified as independent of any business interest. Ordinary, the document said. The words sat on the page like a stone. Nora sat very still. She thought about how they had apparently met, how quickly it had apparently moved, how perfectly she fit every requirement in that clause. She walked out of the study and found Cole in the kitchen. "Tell me how we met," she said. "Not the version with dates, the real version." He turned from the counter. He looked at her for a long moment. "Nora, don't." Her voice was quiet, but it had an edge. "I found the inheritance clause. I know there was a condition. I want to know if I was a condition." The silence stretched out between them. "In the beginning," he said, "yes." She absorbed that. "And after?" "After," he stopped, set down what he was holding. "After 3 weeks, I told my lawyers to find another way to structure the clause because I couldn't use you like that anymore." His voice was steady but strained. "After 6 weeks, I told you the truth, all of it. You were furious. You left. You came back 4 days later and you told me you believed me. We had a long conversation about whether I was worth the risk." He met her eyes. "You decided I was. That part was entirely yours." "I can't verify that." "I know," he said. "I can't make you believe it. I can only tell you it's true." The break-in happened on a Thursday. Nora was alone in the apartment when she heard the door. Cole was in a board meeting. She had sent the housekeeper home early. She moved quietly to the hallway and found a man she didn't recognize going through Cole's office. Specifically, going through a locked drawer that had been pried open. She called security. The man ran. But he left behind a single photograph. It was a traffic camera image. The intersection where her accident had occurred, timestamped to the night of the crash. The camera's timestamp was 7 minutes behind the real time. She could see it because the clock on the restaurant signage in the background was visible. Someone had tampered with the footage. 7 minutes was enough to erase a car from a timeline, enough to erase the driver. Cole came home to find her sitting with the photograph on the kitchen table. She pushed it across to him without a word. She watched his face go through several things very quickly. "Sterling," he said. "Your uncle. He's been trying to break the inheritance clause from the beginning. If you had died in the accident." He didn't finish the sentence. "Then the conditional clause would have failed," Nora said, "and he gets the company." "Yes. He tried to kill me." Cole's jaw tightened. "I think so. I need to be sure before I'm already sure," she said. Her voice was very calm, the kind of calm that comes after fear burns itself out. "I've been sure for 4 days. I've been collecting evidence. I just needed to know if you knew." He stared at her. "You've been investigating," he said. "I worked 2 jobs and I raised my brother on nothing," she said. "Did you think I'd just sit here and wait to feel better?" The boardroom confrontation happened the following week. Nora had compiled everything: the tampered camera timestamp, a financial trail linking Sterling to the shell company that owned the car that hit her, a statement from the nurse who had been pressured to alter her early admission records, and a witness, a delivery driver who had seen the car, remembered the plates, and been paid to disappear, and who had quietly agreed to come forward once he learned what he was covering up. Sterling walked into that boardroom, expecting a quarterly review. He found Nora sitting at the head of the table. She said, "Sit down, Mr. Whitmore." He looked at Cole. Cole didn't move. She laid the documents out one by one. She said nothing dramatic. She just walked him through the evidence the way someone walks through facts when they are not afraid anymore. Sterling's face cycled through denial, calculation, and finally a cold, dangerous stillness. Then Frank Whitmore, 81 years old and transported in his wheelchair, said from the corner of the room, "I think we're done." It was over in 20 minutes. Sterling was removed from the board pending criminal investigation. Legal took over. The company's restructuring was secured. And Cole, that evening, sat across from Nora and pushed an envelope across the table. "Annulment papers," he said. "I had them prepared before today. Whatever happens with Sterling, whatever the law does, I didn't want you to feel like you couldn't leave." His voice was rough. "You didn't choose this marriage knowing what you know now. I won't hold you to promises you can't remember making." Nora looked at the envelope. "You could have hidden those documents from me," she said. "The inheritance clause." "Yes." "You didn't." "No. You just told me the truth when I asked." "It's the least you deserved." She pushed the envelope back across the table. "I'm not signing that," she said. He looked up. "I found something," she said, "in the recovered items from before the accident, a video I recorded on my phone." She set her phone on the table. "I want you to watch it." He pressed play. On the screen, a version of Nora, slightly different, a little less tired, with the look of someone who had made a decision and felt clean about it, looked directly into the camera. "If you're watching this because something happened to me," she said, "I want you to know one thing. Cole didn't come into my life and save it because he loved me. I fell in love because of what I saw when I thought no one was saving anyone. I saw who he actually was, and I chose him. Nobody made me." The video ended. The room was very quiet. Cole pressed his fist briefly to his mouth. Nora reached across the table and covered his hand with hers. "I don't have all of it back," she said quietly. "The memories, I might not get all of it, but I've spent 3 weeks watching who you are when you think you've already lost." And she was right. She squeezed his hand. "I'm choosing you again. That part is still mine." They married again 4 months later. A small ceremony. Frank sat in the front row and cried without embarrassment. Nora's brother stood beside her. The dress was simple and she had picked it herself. Cole Whitmore had a net worth that could buy small nations. But when Nora came through that door, he looked like a man who had been holding his breath for a year and had finally been allowed to exhale. If this story moved you, here's what I need from you right now. Subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment telling me the moment that hit you hardest. Was it the boardroom, the video she left herself, or the second yes? Let me know below. Share this with someone who needs a good story today. There are more coming and you don't want to miss a single one. See you in the next one.